right.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, what you mean?
All-time Kings icon, the one and only Jerry Reynolds. How are you today, Coach?
Well, I've been better. You know, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I'm a basketball fan, and a Kings fan. So this is not one of my finer moments, to be honest with you.
I gotcha, and I hate to rub salt in the wound, but the Kings were playing so poorly last night that I started looking up what's their worst defeat, and they lost by 52 to the Warriors one day. And what stands out to me about that, Coach, I think I have this right. You guys lost to the Warriors by 52 the day after the Mitch Richmond trade. Is that right?
That is right. Mitch didn't play.
Right. Yeah.
And so things were kind of in a disarray, as it were.
Yeah.
And I remember, Mitch. Anyway, he didn't play, and I know Coach Mata was not very happy about it at that time, and Mitch wasn't very happy. So a lot of unhappiness.
Sounds familiar, legend.
Yeah. Things, Mitch never did really warm to Coach Mata and his defense and offense, in particular. But, but also I always remember Mitch finally, after about 5 games or so, he just said, "Hell with it! I'm going to shoot whenever I want to," and I didn't argue with him, and it started really working out. To be truthful, the offense got better immediately.
Yeah. To me, Coach, last night was the first time I've really noticed this year. I thought the offense, speaking of the offense, started to splinter a little bit, and people just started playing more for their own, and it seemed like whatever they're doing structurally, offensively, broke down the most last night?
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think we've all known that the defense was a major problem and very disappointing, I think, all year, really. But I think this is one of the first times I just felt like the offense was equally as bad. Because, like I say, did seem like that a lot of guys were kind of playing their own game, I got to get mine type things, and sometimes it's sadly it's easy to see sometimes.
Legend, it's you've unfortunately, and I don't mean to bring this up, but you've been around to see bad basketball, here in Sacramento. And as you talked about, there's been some better times as well. It's not always negative. With that being said, because you are an icon, you are a legend, you are someone that's seen different iterations of the Kings basketball, where are you putting this as of right now, even we're only, 16 games in?
Well, honestly, it reminds me, sadly, and I'm not happy about saying it, but it reminds me a lot of the end of the Eddie Jordan era, where the team, I think, lost, 19 of its last 20, and I think in 97, 98, before actually the Kings turnaround. It was just a low point. Fans had given up on the team. Mitch got hurt late is one of the reasons the team just collapsed, and some other injuries, but it did collapse. And so it was clear that there was no reason to believe it was going to work going forward.
Yeah. I appreciate Jerry. I talked to Jerry a couple days ago, and he helped me with a piece I wrote for the website that a number of people apparently have actually read, which we appreciate. I was asking you, Jerry, as you know, about following that period when Coach Jordan was let go, and then the rebuild happened almost instantly, but you don't see a lot of similarities between where the Kings were there and where you had a hand in this. You're able to turn things around quickly, and where they are right now.
No, it was very different. And it was one of those rebuilds that happened basically immediately.
Yes.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, as we talked about, but because we're able to obviously have the lottery pick due to the bad record, and that became Jason Williams. But we'd had a lottery pick the year before, later one, Peja Stojakovic, who stayed in Europe. So that turnaround, we had 2 really good rookies ready to play, which is unusual. and both lottery picks and both good, which we as fans we know that doesn't always happen.
Right.
And then the other part was had cap room. We'd lost Brian Grant, who was a very good player, but he'd signed an offer sheet with Portland for really a lot more money than I know Jeff Petrie and the Kings organization at that time felt that he was worth, and I agree with that. I mean, and Portland did the right thing. They overpaid. You have to overpay to get somebody else's restricted free agent for sure. Yeah. But the point being, it opened up cap room, and that cap room later became the free agent signing of Vlade Divac. So now you had two rookies, you had a free agent, and then maybe the most important part was we had an asset that was very valuable that a lot of teams wanted, and that was Mitch Richmond, and so he was traded as part of a deal to get Chris Webber. So now all of a sudden your team looks very different, and you've got some top guys, and then maybe equally important, the Kings had acquired three, in effect, free agents that all helped. Scott Pollard, Vernon Maxwell, and John Barry, and so your roster just simply got turned over.
That's a pretty good off-season right there, Jerry.
Well, yeah, and the other part, which makes it unique, was the off-season was much longer because there was a strike, a holdout, and so it gave you a little more time to do some things. And then there was a coaching search, which ended up a pretty good coach came in named Rick Adelman, and so that was good.
It's that easy. It's that easy.
Yeah, that easy. So, but it really was a case where everything just fell in place. Some of it due to, Jeff Petrie, of course, is one of the very best, and I know from being involved with him step by step, I know all the thinking that was involved, and there's just absolutely one of the best to do it. But it's also true that the owner was Jim Thomas. Really, for the first time, was really willing to spend big money on a free agent. Of course, I've told Jim the reason he was because he knew he'd agreed to sell the team the next year and he wouldn't have to pay it. And so you had that part of it going, and then the kind of the lucky part, I still say, was Vlade. Basically, as a free agent, he wanted to go to Phoenix, and they chose to take Luke Longley.
Wow.
And if we had not got Vlade, I think the second choice was Isaac Austin or somebody like that, and I guarantee you it wouldn't have worked near as well.
Probably not.
Not even close.
So you have to have, but it did happen that way.
Yeah.
So that's the point. Now, I think in general, when you go through a rebuild, it's a several-year process because you don't have those kind of things available. But the thing I've argued kind of with a lot of my King's Herald people is that you can't do it through the draft. It takes too long. I mean, you'll be the Sam Hinkie, trust the process till you're 80.
Yeah.
But I mean, so the draft is a big part of it, but so are trades and free agents, and I think Oklahoma City's the perfect example. Yes, they've drafted well, but they've traded well. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, free agents, Hartenstein, and a trade Caruso.
Yeah.
So if you're not willing to do all of it, then you're probably looking at a Washington rebuild, which is currently in its 10th year, I think.
Are you talking about the team or the politics?
Well, the politics would be in about 150 150-year rebuild with 150 more to go if we're lucky.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Legend, stay right there for me, because something that I've said a little earlier in the show, I was telling Whitey, is the fans, and totally understand and totally get it, and I know you would, or you get it as well, be playing in so many different positions as you have for the Kings. When you hear tank versus rebuild versus just tear it down to the studs, one of the things I told Whitey is if you make the moves now compared to 2 years down the road, I think you're going to have to take pennies on the dollar, albeit it could be 50%, 25%. How is one being a general manager in the front office? How do you kind of go about making moves knowing that you're going to get pennies to the dollar and be okay with it?
Well, I don't know if you're ever okay with it, but I think you have to come to realization that, you've made a bad investment. So, if you buy something for $500 and it's clear it's not worth $500, don't expect $500 back. You're going to have to eat it to some degree. But I mean, I think what is you're probably not going to get what the value you put out to get it. Okay,
right.
So now I think the thing I think you have to be really concerned about is, yes, you might have to take back contracts or players you don't want, but it has to be less contracts and shorter.
Yeah.
So you can move them down the road or whatever, and of course what you're really looking for are picks. So if you're going to redo your team, you really need draft picks, whether to use as draft picks or trade or use as part of trades. But yeah, I think you have to go into it knowing that what you thought this player was worth when you got him, the league doesn't see it that way anymore. And so you're going to have to kind of like trying to. You can have your house on the market and you think it's worth $500,000, but if nobody offers you more than $400,000, that's what it's worth.
Right. One of my fears, Coach, would be if you had Joe Blow and you don't really want him and somebody else wants him, but they say, well, we don't want him that much. We'll take him, but only if you attach, Keon or something. Then you're really hurting yourself, right? If you have to attach assets to players to get other teams to take them, you're not really accomplishing anything.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a great point, is that I think you wanted to right away identify what in your mind are your assets going forward.
Yeah.
And, and certainly I would say, just me personally looking at this team, I'd say, well, Keon Ellis, Nick Clifford, and Reynolds would be guys that I would say I really don't want to.
Yeah.
I would like to keep those guys. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody says, we'll give you Shed Gilgeous-Alexander for Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis, I'd say, you're on your way, fellas. You're always looking for ways. Everybody should be considered. You should consider trading anybody when you're going to redo your team. But I think in general, those guys are more valuable to you than the league. And they're young, so there'd be no reason. So, but everybody else is, they're on the lot, and you're trying to find out what's out there, and I mean it is, you need to start thinking that way immediately. I mean, December 15th is probably about the soonest anything could happen, and you might be able to get as good a deal then as you would get later.
Yeah.
That's something you'll just have to decide. But yeah, it's going to be, if that's what they decide. I mean, this is a really tough go for the front office, ownership, and coach. I mean, I don't know hardly. I don't see a quick fix at all.
Yeah. Joined by the legendary Jerry Reynolds. Take me into the GM mind, Coach, knowing you just said December 15th. How does one cultivate a conversation throughout the league right now, knowing that you're going to make a move or two? How does it come about? I'm just interested in that. Like, are you picking up the phone and calling a friend and putting it out there throughout the NBA circles? Are you calling each team and saying, just gauging the interest for a couple of weeks? How does it come about?
Has some of it already started, perhaps?
Yeah. Well, I would think there's probably should be some of it already started, but I don't know. But once you have, as an organization, decided we need to redo this team, then I don't think there's any reason you need to act like it's a secret. I'd call 29 other teams and let them know, look, you guys, unless you're living on Mars, you've seen our record and our performance here. And we're going to, so if there's this, we're in the business of moving some people. So if there's somebody who would fit what you're looking for, we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, to me, the sooner you get moving on it, doesn't mean anything's going to happen. But you're in the you're a seller.
Yeah. Jerry, is it a concern? Perhaps it's not. I don't mean to ask a leading question, but when you have apparently some veterans that aren't especially happy, which is human nature, understandable. You've got these young players. Do you have to worry that if this lingers where you still have veterans on the team that are not happy, can that create an environment that's not ideal for developing some of your young players? Can it get in the way of the development of the young players?
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that, to me, once you've decided this, then you want to immediately move to where whatever you think your young players that have value going forward, make sure they are going to be part of it and get minutes, important minutes, not 6 minutes at the end of the fourth quarter, that sort of thing, but make sure they're getting valuable minutes, and which means the veterans, they're not going to like it, but you're going to play less.
Yeah,
you're going to play less, and if you don't play well, you'll play a lot less.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. I mean, it's not Little League. Everybody don't get to play 3 innings, so...
you might hurt some feelings, Coach.
There is a chance of that. There's a chance that some feelings will be hurt, and people won't want to hug you after the games and stuff like that. There's that chance.
Coach, have you ever had the and again, as Whitey said, leading question, if you don't want to answer, just, do what Jerry does, right? Have you ever had a situation where a player, you had to go to that player and just say, you know what, we don't believe that you are giving us your best effort. We're going to go ahead and allow you just to sit down, and we're not going to put it out there in the atmosphere, for the media or news or anything else. But right now, you just need to sit down.
Yeah, actually, I have.
Okay.
One comes to mind, and rest in peace, Derek Smith. Years ago, I was coaching, and he was the highest paid player, and so I was under a lot of pressure to play him, but I had 2 young players that were better. Ricky Berry, for sure, a lot better, and Harold Presley was better. And, and I finally credited Greg Lugabell. I said, there's no reason for me to play this guy. He's not, I realize he's the highest paid guy, but, these guys are better, and they're better teammates, and it fits better, that sort of thing. And so I said to him, and later on, I think we finally even waived him. He's agreed to a kind of a buyout which was a pretty good one for us. But anyway, so it was a very unpleasant circumstance, let's put it that way.
He had torn up his knee, right, Jerry, where he was never the same as he had.
Yeah, he was, all this wasn't on him. The team was to blame for the trade, truthfully. Should never have made the trade because he was damaged goods when he came and was never the player that he was supposed to be. And like any player, and certainly a veteran, it's hard for him to accept that. Basically the, I mean, it's like, well, I'm your highest paid player, so you have to play me, and it's like, well, I might have to for a while, but I shouldn't be. It's kind of like the old Keith Smart statement. I always remember him talking about Thomas Robinson. Robinson was bitching about playing time. He said, I was the 5th pick in the draft. I should be playing more. He said, well, if you weren't the 5th pick in the draft, I wouldn't play you at all.
Did you have your?
I do.
Okay, here we go.
I do. Speaking of injuries, growing up, this was one of the people that I was told, and I was always, you always heard that this guy was absolutely phenomenal, and that's Bernard King. Bernard King was extra phenomenal, and he had the knee injury 85, 86, I believe. But I was watching All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Captain Jack, and George Gervin, the Iceman, who had the opportunity to talk to the Kings a couple of days ago. They asked him his top 5 scorers all time. I'm not going to ask you that, Jerry, but he mentioned Kevin Durant himself, Bernard King, David Thompson, who we talked about, and Kareem. With that being said, take me into the mind of who Bernard King was, because I've seen everything about him. I know he finished MVP once in 84. I know he's a heck of a scorer. He's a Hall of Famer, 4-time All-NBA guy. Everybody tells me this dude was legit, like Michael Jordan legit. Was he?
He was in that territory. I mean, he was in the. I wouldn't put him with Jordan or Kobe, but because he wasn't as good defensively, and really wasn't as good with the ball. But boy, with a live dribble and scoring range, he was just as unguardable. I'll tell you that. He was so quick off his feet and used the glass. Yeah. And even after the knee surgery, which he was never the same, but he was still unguardable. I mean, he's still unguardable. Yeah, really. I think with that, certainly wasn't quite the player after the injuries, but I mean, which probably cost him a legacy of being a top 30 guy in history of all time. I think that.
Wow.
Because he was, he was amazing. A little bit, he had that special quickness off his feet, like a David Thompson. He's bigger and a better shooter and things. But he was. He's a real deal. Yeah, I mean, of course, George. I mean, there's not many better than George Gervin either. That's another story. I worked a basketball camp with George Gervin, by the way. And,
really?
Yeah, really good guy. What a good guy, and delightful. He just loved to talk basketball. He was for a true superstar, about as easy to be around as anybody you ever were around. One of those guys you'd go have a beer with, and he didn't feel necessary to tell you how great he was, but clearly he was.
Yeah, I got to tell you this, Jay, about Jerry. Jerry he's done a lot. He just doesn't like to show everybody everything he's done. But I was picking him up to do our podcast one time.
Okay.
And so I was just waiting for him in his entryway, and he has this big, I don't know what you call it, shelving of all this stuff, memorabilia, books, scrapbooks. And he told me, he said, my wife put all that together. So he's getting ready, and I'm just looking at it. I didn't go peeking through any drawers or anything. I'm just looking, and there's like this picture of Jerry and Julius Erving. I'm like, what is this? And he goes, yeah, we did camp together.
That's my guy.
He's got tons of stuff like that in
Connected,
him. Like,
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doc was great too. He was. It was. I've lived all 81 of them. I'll tell you that.
And excuse me, thank you from somebody from the 916. It was Alex English, not David Thompson. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
That was George Gervin. Right. Yeah, Gervin put Alex English.
Same team, Nuggets, right?
Yeah.
Well, Alex belongs in that. We talked about him last
week.
time. I mean, Alex wasn't quite the athlete that Bernard was, but there were a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
But just the extra athleticism that Bernard had, I thought put him, right at. I mean, he was kind of like a smaller version in a way of Durant. I think he was probably harder to guard, really.
Wow.
I mean, but that it's hard to gauge those things, and so there's that. But yeah, some of those. I know a lot of people that probably are under 30 don't realize that there are some guys that play pretty good, and they'd still be able to play pretty good today.
Wait, you mean they had an NBA before Michael Jordan?
They did.
Really?
They did.
Not the ABA. We're talking about the NBA.
Hey, I'm getting like Mike Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser. Hey, there was actually things that happened before the 20-somethings started watching sports.
All right, Coach, we appreciate it. Thank you for your time,
Well,
especially late on a
I
Friday.
appreciate you guys, and I'd like to tell you better days ahead, and I think I can say that because
Yes.
I can't imagine it getting much worse. I really can't. So just praying for Coach Christie and hope this franchise starts making some good decisions. They're due.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Jerry. We'll
See you
talk to you
guys.
soon. Yeah,
Bye.
we appreciate it very much. We'll come right back with a Kings